was here last Sunday? Yay, okay, good. We were talking about change your thinking. It kind of goes together because this week is change your life. You see how that kind of meshes? Ernest Holmes knew what he was talking about. Change your thinking, change your life. So this week we're talking about changing your life. And one of the things I said last week was in order to get in there and change our thinking, we needed those three things, right? Awareness, practice, and commitment. Awareness of the thoughts that we're thinking. We have to get into our own minds and question those thoughts that we're thinking. What are those default thoughts? Are they true? Are they false? Are they serving us? Are they holding us back? Are they limiting us? Are they expanding us? So we become aware of the thoughts we're thinking. The second thing was practice. Practice, practice, practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? There you go. It's about practicing those new thoughts. So when the old default thoughts, those old tapes or old CDs, start running in your head, then you replace them with those new thoughts, but that takes practice. You know, it just doesn't happen overnight a lot of times. It just takes practice for the new thoughts to become your go-to thoughts or your default thoughts. And the third thing was commitment. It takes time sometimes. You have to be committed to your spiritual practice whether or not you see change. You have to remain committed to your spiritual practice whether or not you see things on the level of effect and the manifestation there or not there. Because things change on the invisible level before they can ever outpicture on the physical. So those are the things that we talked about last week. Becoming aware of your predominant thoughts, replacing those thoughts with new thoughts, and having the commitment to changing your life even when you don't see the change in the time limit you've given yourself. You know, not the one Spirit has, maybe, but the time limit you've given yourself. Because what happens is things do start to change and shift. Old patterns do start to fall away. Maybe it's really, really subtle at first, but things do start to change. And what happens is sometimes it can take us by surprise. I mean, little things, you know, like I said, you know, when we come to a teaching like this, we say that the little honeymoon period comes first, where we start practicing our new thoughts, and we start practicing our affirmative prayer, and we start practicing meditation, and doing all of these things, and we go through that little honeymoon phase that's called princes, palaces, and parking places, you know. Things start manifesting in our lives, and then it gets a little deeper than that. That change that happens, maybe old relationships fall away. Maybe people fall away. Maybe jobs fall away. Things begin to shift and change. The ground under your feet sometimes falls away. They call this, you know, basically having your feet planted in midair because you are embracing a new thought and then a new life that comes with it, then the old one has to fall away. Things that we have been familiar with, things that we used as anchors, as familiars, they fall away. So lots of things might change as you embrace new thought, but life is change. Life is change. It's just the way it is at the level of effect. Things fall away, things change. The only thing that is eternal is God. The only thing that is eternal are those qualities of God. Everything else in the physical world changes. Countries come and go, empires come and go, lives come and go. Spirit inhabits form and abandons form all the time. So things at the level of the condition will forever change. And we embrace that, or we are dragged kicking and screaming. Either way, change is going to happen. It's just going to happen. So when we change consciously, we can embrace it. You know, we can embrace it, and we can grow into that. We can grow into that new consciousness. When we change our thinking first, and then we begin to see the outpicturing, we can do it with a certain level of comfort. I was, like I said, I was up at Sonoma State this past week for a couple of days where I was at Avery's orientation. He was doing the student orientation, I was doing the parent orientation. They put us in, you know, separate parts of the campus. It was really very interesting. It's a small enough university where we got to meet the deans of all the different colleges. We got to meet some of the professors. I got to meet the dean of student services, who is a wonderful, delightful woman, Dr. Leslie Shelton. And she just had a wonderful, wonderful talk, and then afterward we got together and we chatted for a while. She talked to me about her doctoral dissertation that she had done, and she did it on the heart of literacy, transforming school-induced shame and recovering the competent self. Oh, it was just amazing. It was just amazing. So to be brief, she worked with adults who were not readers. And she had a wonderful program that she developed for them, for adults who were not reading at all, to create readers. And for those readers who were struggling, adults who were struggling, maybe at a 4th grade level, she could get them up to college level reading. I mean, it was an amazing program that she developed. And what she found was when she did the follow-up, after her initial program, she would bring all these people together. Now, these are people that were illiterate, adults. And after her program, they were reading at 12th grade levels or reading at college levels. These are people who got promotions at their jobs as a result of her program. And maybe they got, raises, or just wonderful things happened to them. And when she got them back together to do a follow-up, she found something very interesting, that none of them identified themselves as readers. They still felt like imposters. Even though they were reading, they were writing, they were doing calculations, even though that they were quote-unquote successful in their jobs, had gotten promotions, some of them, they identified themselves as non-readers. They were still faking it in the real world. And that concerned her. They described themselves as illiterate phonies, that they were just better at faking it. And so she decided to do something else. Ernest Holmes in Religious Science, he said this. He said, healing and demonstration take place as our minds become attuned to the truth of being. There is no process of healing, but there generally is a process in healing. This process is the time and effort which we undergo in our realization of the truth. And you see, this was what she was coming up against, was that she created a situation where they could be successful on the outside. She gave them the tools on the outside, but the consciousness had not changed. The consciousness in their minds had not changed. So based on the follow-up, she created another program called Journey to Wholeness, Healing School Shame. Oh, so emotional. But part of the program that she created for these students was to set them down and put music on. And she had them draw pictures. This was a whole brain kind of exercise. It was an 8-week class in which she worked with them to basically recover those parts of themselves that were shamed into thinking that they were not good enough, that they were not readers, that there was something wrong with them, that they were broken. And they did it through a variety of ways, through this whole brain exercise. They drew pictures, they had music on, they discussed the feelings, because these things happen at a feeling level. When we're shamed in school, when we're told we're not good enough, when we're told we're stupid, this happens at a feeling level. So these, and pictures, we remember these pictures in our minds. Can you remember when you were embarrassed at school, in elementary school? I mean, we can remember it in a heartbeat, and your cheeks still get hot, don't they? When you remember that incident where you were made fun of, or you were ridiculed or something, it's right there. And so she brought these students back through that, through pictures and through music and through drawing. And it was wonderful to see that at the end of that second program, they were successful readers and writers, and they felt confident in what they were doing. They felt like they belonged in the world in which they were operating. So the transformation, that idea of integrating our wholeness or coming to the truth of our wholeness, that's an inside job that occurs in our consciousness. Florida Scott Maxwell said this. She said, life does not accommodate you. It shatters you. Every seed destroys its container, or else there would be no fruition.
Say again.
Life does not accommodate you, it shatters you. Every seed destroys its container, or else there would be no fruition. And the thing is, we all have different intelligences. We are all unique individual expressions of God. We have such multiple intelligences. I know I spoke with Dr. Shelton about Dr. Howard Gardner's work. She had studied with him for a while. And Howard Gardner was the gentleman who wrote about multiple intelligences years and years ago. There is the kinds of intelligences we test for in this country. Literacy is linguistics and math, and that's about it. And if you're really, really strong in linguistics and math, you get those high scores on those standardized tests, you're okay. But there are lots and lots of us in the room, I know, that have musical intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, spatial intelligence, body kinesthetic intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence. There are all kinds of intelligences that are not tested for, that are not valued. I mean, I'm going to make a confession here. Honey, I cannot carry a tune if I had a bucket, okay? Now, if we were the kind of culture whose intelligence was measured by singing and dancing and storytelling, I would be considered learning disabled. Okay? Because music to me is like a whole foreign language. I can't get it. I don't understand it. Mark does such fabulous things, and I know Don creates charts, and I don't even know what that means, you know? And it's like, I would be considered learning disabled in a musical culture. But we don't do that. We single out the math and the English strugglers, those people who are having difficulty in math and English, and we label them. We label them. And those are the wounds that needed to be healed with these people. And they needed to be healed from the inside out. Just because we gave them the tools and we taught them how to read and to write, it didn't change how they thought about themselves until we went inside. And then the adults finally saw themselves when they took that journey to wholeness and they recognized themselves as being whole, perfect, and complete individuals already. Then they were able to have that outer change be a lasting change. You know, and this is what Ernest Holmes meant when he said, change your thinking, change your life. It's not until we get inside and change how we feel about ourselves, how we see ourselves, how we think about ourselves, can we demonstrate that on the outside. You know, this is what I love about our faith tradition. It's about going in and changing the consciousness, and then we see the conditions change on the outside. If we just change things on the outside, what do we say about that, right? It's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Might look better, but that sucker's still going down, you know? That change doesn't help. That change doesn't last. You know, we have to go in and change the consciousness on the inside, and then the last link in the chain of manifestation is what you see at the level of effect. It's what you see in your world. And I think that we do that here in a not only about healing school shame, but about healing family shame, about healing your religion of origin shame, about relationship shame. How many of us have been wounded by childhood? How many of us can remember that name that we were called? I mean, you can remember it like that, right? Yeah, no, you don't have to put your hands up. Makes me want to cry. I mean, horrible things, you know, horrible things. Because of our sexual orientation, because we wore glasses, because maybe we wore crutches or braces. You know, it was always something. There was always something that could be picked on and poked at. And we can remember it like it was yesterday. So it's about healing those scars. You know, I was looking up the word shame because Dr. Sheldon used that in her doctoral thesis, right? Healing the shame of our childhood wounds, of early education, and being labeled as learning disabled and all of that stuff. And you know, the interesting part about the word shame is the definition is about a conscious knowing about the act that we participate in as being dishonorable. So I'm not even sure we're using the right word when we talk about healing the shame, because as children we were not conscious of an act that we considered dishonorable and that we were participating in it. What was really happening to us was that we were being subject to someone else's judgment, and then we took it on as our own sense of our false sense of self. Our false sense of self. We took it on and maybe we converted it into shame from that point on. But that's not what it was to begin with. The good news is, because I can just feel the energy in the room just went. The good news is we get to heal this stuff. Ernest Holmes said, healing is our birthright. It doesn't matter what happened to our past as long as we realize and leave it in our past and not drag it around with us for the rest of our lives. Ernest Holmes said, don't drag the past around like a dead, rotting corpse on your back. Isn't that lovely? Don't do that. We get to heal. We get to keep the past in the past. Don't look back there. You're not going that direction. You're going this direction. Ernest Holmes in Can We Talk to God, he said this. He said, it's not our spirit that needs to be made whole. It is our mental reactions to life that need healing. These mental reactions are both conscious and subjective. Successful prayer must neutralize negative reactions on both the conscious and the subjective plane. Mental healing is accomplished not through coercion of our consciousness, but through its illumination. And this is why we have practice, like we said in the beginning. This is why we have commitment, even though we don't see change. Because we can change our consciousness. We can change our conscious thoughts. We can work on them. Oh, wait. Is that really true about me? No. I'm going to replace that with another thought. But what is going on in that subjective mind that we're not even aware of? That's what maybe sometimes takes time to filter down. We need to get ourselves out of the way. We need to get our false sense of self out of the way. That self that thought we were less than, that self that bought into those judgments about us by the people around us. We need to get those thoughts out of the way so that our authentic self can shine through. I love that song. Our true colors can shine through. We let go of the story that people told about us to us. And we create our new sense of self. You know, we are broken and not good enough for as long as we keep telling that story. We're not good enough and we're broken. And we'll continue to be not good enough and be broken until we drop the damn story. And this is what New Thought is about. It is about replacing the false sense of self with the genuine article, with the authentic self that's just aching to express through you. How many times do you feel that bubbling up and welling up inside of you? I can do this. I want to do this. I long to do this. And then what happens? Sometimes that sound, that critical parent or critical teacher or critical self or whoever it is that comes in and squashes your dream. Oh, I can't do that. I'm not old enough. Or I'm too old. Or I'm not educated enough. Or whatever. I'm not tall enough. I don't know. You know, whatever it is, that critical self that comes in right after your expansive thought, right after that unlimited sense of possibility that you're embracing, and that wet blanket that falls over top of you in the form of that critical voice that says, right? Yeah. Put it down. Tell it to shut up. It has no business being in your head anymore. Stop letting it live rent-free in there. And evict it. And here's the thing. When we consciously evict that and we embrace the new thought, this is what we're talking about. This is what they talk about being born again. This is really being born again. We embrace that new thought. We become as children again. And that's really what they said in the Bible, right? I don't remember Matthew something. I don't even remember the number. But it was, you know, except as ye become little children, right? You shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. This is what they were talking about. Renewing our thought, renewing our ideas, becoming as children again, being delighted by the world, shedding the old judgments and the criticisms that others freely gave you, by the way, with no charge. Getting rid of those, dropping them, and embracing your own sense of self. Who are you? I'm delightful. Who are you? I'm lovely. We are all of those qualities of God. That's the truth of us. I am joy. You know, they talked about little kids, and in third grade, was it third grade? First, second, and third, I guess. And they were all artists. They could all draw. They could all sing, and they sing out loud. And those same kids interviewed by the time they get to sixth grade, nothing. They can't draw, they can't sing, all of their ideas about who they are have been squashed and flattened because they had been criticized so long. You know, oh, look I drew this picture. Oh, what is it? You know, oh, it's a lovely picture of a horse. No, actually, it's a hippopotamus. It doesn't look anything like a hippopotamus. Oh, a child's not going to draw again. You know, we get those messages. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. So by the time we become adults, look at how small our world has become. What we need to do is we need to become aware of those things. Embrace those new thoughts. Replace those old thoughts with those new thoughts. That's not who you are. That was just someone's stupid idea of who you were. That's all. Who didn't know the truth about you. Didn't know that you were a child of God, an adult of God now. You know? Didn't know you had every single quality of God within you to do whatever you want. That wonderment of childhood, that's new thought. Getting rid of those old ideas, those lack and limitation, and I can't, and I'm not talented enough, I'm not good enough, I can't sing, can't carry a tune in a bucket, right? Those thoughts are old thoughts, and they are not the truth of us. They're not the truth of us. The joy of childhood, the wonder of the world, the magic, the mystery, the majesty of the world, being immersed in this universe is just, it's an incredible experience when we look at it as children, when we look at it with the childlike mind. I was reading a book the other day called A Life of Being, Having, and Doing Enough by Wayne Muller. Fabulous book if you get the chance. Please read it. And he talks about the beginner's mind. And that's what he calls it. We would call it maybe the mind of the child. In the Bible, they called it the child. He calls it the beginner's mind. It would benefit us if we approached things with the beginner's mind. I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Whatever it is, if we approach it with that beginner's mind, because he said the beginner is open to infinite possibilities. Don't you love when you do the impossible? I just love it when, you know, someone says, oh, you can't do that, and then you wind up doing it, and you do it well, and it's like, yay, and you want to go back to them and like, look, you know, and show them. When we do the impossible, it's just so fascinating. But we do that because we have the beginner's mind. Everything is possible. With a beginner's mind, anything is possible for us. The expert only has a few options because they know. They know everything. Right? My 18-year-old knows everything. It's going to take him a few years to not know anything. But the expert knows everything. They know what route to take. They know not to do this. They tell you it's not going to work, you know, and don't go into plastics or go into plastics. What was that in The Graduate? Remember that, right? Plastics, go into plastics. The expert doesn't have room to grow because they already know everything about everything. And so they've closed themselves down to anything new and anything different and anything unknown and anything that's possible. But the childlike mind, the beginner's mind, the one that can embrace the unlikely and the imaginative and the impossible, find a way to make it happen. They find a way to make it happen. And letting go of our false sense of self is part of that. It's part of going back to that childlike sense of wonder, going back to that beginner's mind. We let go of the judgments, we let go of the labels that people gave us that we wore, proudly or not proudly, and we go back again to the beginning. We're fresh, we're new, we're reborn. We have a new thought. We become aware. We practice the presence. And we make the commitment. We let go of the blame. We let go of the shame. And we get to let go of all of the ways in which we diminish ourselves. We're adults now. Nobody's doing it to us now. Well, maybe they are, but we're not listening to them. Now, the biggest critic in our lives is ourselves. Now we're the ones doing it. We're the critical parent. We're the critical boss. We're the critical, school teacher. Whatever it was in the beginning, now we've taken on that role. We're the only ones doing it to ourselves now. So now is the time to drop the blame and the shame and the guilt and the labels and not know. Just not know. When someone says, "What do you do for a living?" I don't know. What's your last name? I don't know. I knew. Just got here. Brand new on the planet this morning. I awoke to a brand new day. I don't know what I'm going to be today. It's that beginner's mind of infinite possibility. We let go of all of this stuff. The blame, the shame, the guilt, and the labels. We create heaven on earth. Right here, right where we are. Right where we're sitting. It's a whole new day. It's a whole new world. This is what Ernest Holmes meant by change your thinking, change your life. Life ceases to be what it was. And I'm not saying it was all bad. Plenty of us had wonderful childhoods, And sometimes there was stuff mixed in there that wasn't so great. Maybe you had adults in your life that nurtured you and grew you and praised you, and that's wonderful. Maybe you had, adults in your life who pounded you and told you you were worthless or you were stupid, and that's an experience too. But you've gotten here, so now it's your choice of what you're going to believe is true about yourself. At that orientation, they talked about the children who were going into college now. They called them the millenniums. The children that were born between 87 and 2000 are called the millennium generation. And it is, by the way, the biggest generation this country has ever seen. It's even bigger than the baby boomers. So there you go. We will have people to support us. Yay. And one of the things that they said about the millenniums was they have been praised up one side and down the other. They have been praised and praised and praised and praised. They got trophies for just participating. They got certificates for just showing up and breathing. The mirror test, if you can fog the mirror, you got a certificate, okay? They got rewards, and they got play dates, and they got, circled up, and they got just praised up one side and down the other. These children, if they have a wee bit of a challenge with something, they just drop it and walk away. They cannot do it if it becomes difficult. So, see, even in our best intentions, they're going to have challenges too. So maybe our childhood wasn't the greatest because maybe we had parents who were too critical. These kids are going to have challenges too, just a different kind of challenge. What we were told about the millenniums was they must be told exactly what is expected of them. Exactly, line for line, because they cannot think outside of the box on themselves. In fact, they haven't even gotten outside of the box. That unless they are told specifically, get into the shower, turn the water on, pick up the soap, put the soap on the cloth. Unless they are told specifically, they don't have a clue. Because we have always been around them. We've always told them what to do. We've always secured them. They always traveled in groups. We always arranged their play dates for them. When I was little, my mother would say, "Get out of the house, and I don't want to see you till dinner." Right? So these kids are going to have a different set of challenges than we did. We didn't keep them from having any challenges. We just kind of gave them a different set. That's all. We just gave them a different set. But they're going to be doing the same thing that we're doing as they get older. They're going to be changing their thinking and changing their life. This is what it is. This is what it's about. And becoming aware of it and practicing it and making the commitment to change is what's going to change the conscious thoughts, and it's also going to seep in, and it's going to change that subjective mind also. And your life changes. It's not the same. It's bigger and brighter and bolder and more outrageous and more wonderful than you could ever imagine. And that is the truth of you. And that is the truth of all of us. We are the qualities of God. And we better start acting like it. Dennis Merritt Jones said this. He said, "It can be incredibly difficult to separate from the herd or to go our own way when it goes against the grain of the herd mentality. And yet, if we don't, we know that there is a part of us that will slowly begin to die. Call it spirit or soul or life force or whatever you may. There is that within us that knows who it is we have come here to be and what it is we've come here to do. And if we don't listen to that call, it begins to wane. And this is when life becomes more about enduring until we die rather than thriving while we're here. So this is what I want for us. I want for us to listen to that call, to heed that call, to awaken to the truth of your magnificence, to practice the new thoughts of your perfection, and make the commitment to the new life you deserve.